that they voted badly. We even saw clips of his Prime Minister, Nabanja, making jokes at a scene of a disaster. That is where we are, and that is the kind of leadership that is imposed on us. In 2024, and this is important to remind fellow Ugandans, that our public debt grew to over 97 trillion. Now, this is almost double our national budget. 55 trillion of this money is borrowed from those countries that Museveni calls foreign meddlers. Now, you all can tell the hypocrisy. When he is borrowing money in your name, the money that you are going to pay, he calls them development partners. But when they call him out on abuse of human rights and democracy, he calls them foreign meddlers. That's the hypocrite that rules over us and shows more need and more urgency to get rid of him as soon as we can. We've again seen rising abductions in Uganda. Very unfortunately, we've exported the same nasty habit to even our neighbors in Kenya. We've seen so many abductions. Many of our people are still missing. But the most recent is the abduction of Dr. Kiza Besigye from Kenya. Dr. Besigye and Haji Obed Lutale from Kenya. They were illegally abducted from Kenya, brought to Uganda against international law, without any, extradition, legal extradition arrangements. They were brought to Kenya and court-martialed. Of course, we continue to condemn that, but condemning it is not enough. We must fight to practically put it to an end. Because now, we, the people that used to export positivity, we are exporting abduction. And the cancer is slowly catching in Kenya. We continue to see people imprisoned because of their conscience. So many political prisoners are still in prison. The nation was shocked to see 19 of our comrades coerced into accepting crimes they did not commit. Among these is the renowned Olivia Rutaya, who was coerced and told that she either had to plead guilty or die in prison. Because she saw no hope of getting justice, she was cornered to plead guilty. And this includes 18 others, to make a total of 19. However, there are those that refused, and these include Kalanzi, Sheriff, they include Machete Yasin, they include Emma Kato and others. We stand with them. We continue to call for their freedom because they did not commit no crime like the regime is intending to force them to accept. We also have many other comrades that are political prisoners that are kept in prison because of bogus claims. People like Bobi Young, people like Muyodi, and many others. We stand with them and we call for their freedom. I must also mention the selective prosecution. We've seen so many people paid by the regime to hurl obscenities to regime critics. Some of them have even been rewarded by sounding government positions just because they are abusive, they are insulting, and they use nasty, obscene words against the opponents of the regime. But they've been rewarded. But there's a young man called Musuza Juma, also known as Madubala. He continues to rot in prison for speaking or for being regarded abusive to the regime. We condemn that. We call for equality. We call for justice for everybody. But most importantly, We call for the joining of hands to remove this immoral and oppressive regime of General Museveni and his fellow thieves. We must save our country, otherwise justice won't be served. Those that do wrong will be rewarded, and those that do right will be punished. This year, 2024, we saw Uganda being struck off the countries that are beneficiaries of the African Growth Opportunities Act in the USA, AGOA. Uganda was scrapped off, and this was prompted by human rights abuses, by disregard of the rule of law, and all the wrong things that the regime do. What does this mean? This means that more than 6,000 of Uganda's product now can no longer have duty-free access to the world's biggest economy. Yes, it's a loss to Uganda, but it's also a blow to this regime as we seek to discredit it further. You saw Museveni sending his son-in-law to go and plead, but it was unsuccessful. We continue to advise him that the best way to plead is to do the right thing, because we live in a global community and we should be judged by similar standards, especially in regards to humanity and the rule of law. This year, our common people continue to suffer, and I'll talk about coffee. Coffee this year was dealt a blow. The regime ignored nationwide protests from farmers and went ahead and scrapped the Uganda Coffee Development Authority and handed its operations to the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, as a result, we all know that over 12 million coffee growers in Uganda are at risk, knowing the incompetencies of the ministries run by Museveni's, henchmen, like you have seen in the Ministry of Agriculture. Coffee, we should note that earned Uganda 4.2 trillion in the financial year that ended in June this year. Now that's a lot of money. And as we have seen in the recent past, that wherever there is money, Museveni will bring his people and try to take over that. You saw that with gold, it's only sente ezitekebwa mu byokwerinda oba ezigambe zitekebwa mu byokwerinda. Byokwerinda bisinga okutwala sente z'omusolo mu budget. Naye ekyennaku nti poliisi yava ku mulimu gw'erina okukola ogw'okukuuma bannansi n'ebyabwe n'egy'okunoonyereza ku buzzi bw'emisango. Kati poliisi ezannya byabufuzi. Poliisi eringa armed wing eya NRM. Yensonga lwaki emisango mitono nnyo egyali ginoonyezebwako. Tewali in fact musango gwa ttemu lya mmundu gwali gunoonyezeddwako ne gutuukirwa ku nfeete. Kuviira ddala ku Bakaweesa, Bakigundu, Bakirumira n'abalala. Lwaki? Kubanga poliisi ya wano omulimu gwekola gwa kuzannya byabufuzi, si gwa kukola mulimu gwayo. Ate ebiseera bingi mwawulira mu M7 nga bakatta Kaweesi bwe yagamba poliisi erimu kawuukumi. So kiteeberezebwa ti bennyini be beenyigira mu erettemu kubanga be balina emmundu. In English, Sematemba Bwejire, you asked what I say about gun violence, but like I said, gun violence, no gun violence case, no murder case, no shooting case has been investigated to a logical conclusion. Ever since the shootings of Kirumira, Kaweesa and others. Why? Because our police has been reduced to playing politics other than doing its work. It's more like an armed wing or a coercive wing of the NRM. They do more politics than solving crime. And there's also a strong belief that because they are the people with guns, then they are the ones that are carrying out all this gun violence. Because every once in a while, those killed are linked to either criticizing the regime or being against the regime or disagreement with those that disagree with the regime. You've seen many people coming out to cry. You saw one of the regime supporters, Ham, coming out when he had a disagreement with Museveni's son-in-law. He came out and said, I know I might get shot anytime, and he pointed to Museveni's son-in-law that he would be responsible. Maybe that's what saved him. So there's more to look at in that angle. Oyongedde n'obuuza nti 2025 tuyingidde kugenda kuba mwaka gwa byabufuzi n'ogamba ntunulira ntya embeera era Museveni mwepikira. Embeera y'okulonda bwesembedde 2025 mbadde nga nkiddiŋŋana nga nkunga bannayuganda bonna abalina endowooza eyagala okukyusa eggwanga benyigire mu bukulembeze. Abasobola okwesimbawo beesimbewo, abatayesimbyewo bawagire abo abeesimbyewo abakiikirira endowooza yaabwe. Era n'enkunga nnyo naddala abavubuka mwe bansomyeko, mwe banzikiriza mu nsi yange, mwe banyina obuwagizi, nyina abantu b'enkulembera. Bwe mutenyigira mu bukulembeze mujja kulemberwa abantu be munyooma. N'olw'ensonga eyo mubyenyigiremu. Bwe mutabyenyigiramu temutandika kubuuza nti nga twafunye abakulembeze ababi abatatusaana.